Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to today's episode of Midday with Reverend Don. It is your guest hosts. I am Reverend Phoenix, and of course, we got here Reverend Alyssa, my sister.
Hi.
And if you've been coming for the past couple of weeks, you know that we are regularly filling in for Uncle Don as his regular Friday guests. So we glad to be here doing it, holding it down.
Yeah, it's fun.
Wherever it is that you happen to be watching from, go ahead and interact in the chats if you would like. To get some personal attention or personal discussion or like guide the conversation in any way, you can do that by interacting in the chats. Definitely encourage you to do that. How's your week been? Or 2 weeks since it's been like 2 weeks since you've been here.
Yeah,
So how have you been? What's been up?
it's been busy. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of energy moving. It's
Mhm.
busy.
We getting ready for illustration for sure.
Yeah,
That
very
has
exciting.
um, word. Last week, we talked about the use of the major arcana for shadow work, and we did go through a few of the cards. And I thought that with you here, we could continue that discussion um, and really kind of give some insight into how this diverse tool can be used to like really help clear up some karmic debris and help us make something out of ourselves in this incarnation.
Yeah, here for it.
Um, do you have a deck that you prefer to use?
Right now, I've been using uh, what's it called? Is it the Witches?
The Modern Witches Tarot.
Yeah, the Modern Witches Tarot a lot. Um,
Hmm.
I'm
That's
using this one a lot lately. That's my current go-to.
that's the one that I was using last week. I actually don't have that deck with me today, so I went with the tried and true Rider Waite Smith Mamma
Mhm.
Jamma.
I like this deck because it fits my hands. I have little hands.
Mm-hmm. Hello, hello to Reverend Janet Gann, who is in Illinois. We met Janet at Investiture at Lustration last year.
Yeah.
Thanks for dropping in. So that's the deck that you use, the Modern Witches Tarot. What is your take on shadow work? Like, what's it for, in your opinion?
I think shadow work is one of the most important tools that we have for, I, I want to say self care, but it goes beyond self care because I think it truly does transcend lives. Um, I think shadow work can help not just with the things that we're currently dealing with in our lives, but the ties that we have brought from our previous lives.
Hmm.
Um, and it's, um, what's that saying? Is know thyself?
Yes, yes. One of the most important maxims or aphorisms, or what's that other word? Proverbs, or whatever it is that you want to call it, from the Oracle at Delphi, know thyself. And when you started to talk about like shadow work, immediately I was like, yeah, you know what? Like, actually, shadow work is legit one of our most powerful tools for the integration of our spirit across lifespan.
And it's really something that we require of Corellian clergy as you grow.
Mhm.
We introduce it very early on in the outer court, I think even in the first degree with soul retrieval, um, which is a one of the most powerful tools we have. But it's deeply embedded through our curriculum, even to the life map of the third degree, which
Mhm.
is pure shadow work.
Mhm.
Pure shadow work.
Merry meet Anissa. Thank you for popping in. Um, Last week, I said that you know that you are doing shadow work correctly if you apply it to your triggers and you work so hard and so thoroughly that at the end of the day you are met with a sense of non-judgment towards what once triggered you, like that's how you know that you did shadow work correctly. It leads you to a place of acceptance of the things that you can't control, and it leads you to a place where you know how to use your power appropriately on the things that are within your control.
Um, I completely credit shadow work with helping me overcome a phobia. Um, I clown phobia, and
It's funny
yeah,
that you had a clown phobia and I
did a
almost went
lot of shadow work on that.
to clown college. That's funny to me.
Hello, am I still with you?
Yeah, you're here. It's a little
Hello.
lag. Uh, all right, she probably gonna log back in. It's funny to me that Lady Alyssa has or had a phobia with clowns,
Yeah,
and I almost went to clown college.
that is funny.
It's in To me, it's interesting.
And you are not the only friend that I have had in my life that has that does clowning, or I've I don't know what to freaking call it, but I have another friend who well, a college friend. I'm not in contact with them anymore, but um, they were a circus person, and another close friend of mine grew up in a clown family.
That's
His
fun.
parents, I'm sorry, their parents were clowns, and
That is fun. I love that.
yeah.
All right. So, first up for analysis, we have temperance. Temperance as a shadow work card. I think that like maybe temperance has its origins with shadow work, maybe. Because automatically it draws attention to how you fill maybe your own cup, and maybe your state of being when you're pouring from one cup to another. Like it's definitely a contemplation of grace.
That's where I was going with it too, is that temperance is very much a way of contemplating grace.
Um,
Um,
this
the fact
particular
that you do in fact deserve to be removed from the things that hold you back.
this particular card, we got the 1 foot in, 1 foot out, right? Which is a symbol in and of itself. The rising sun is also a symbol in this particular card, and like the path towards it. And for me, whenever I see this particular card, I for some reason imagine that those mountains off in the distance and that sun up there is the same landscape that the Fool starts on.
Well, that's what the major arcana is. It's the journey of the fool. The fool is all of the cards.
And so when we are interpreting the card temperance through the lens of shadow work, what do you do in excess? What do you do specifically for pleasure, even though you might not need it?
Hmm.
What do you do in excess that perhaps removes opportunities from others? Because when you do things in excess, you're not operating from a place of need. What else? What else? I just realized this angel has the symbol, the alchemical symbol for the sun, like right there, and it's
It does. And I'm also thinking temperance. How did I lose my own train of thought? Um, that it's a modulation of emotion as well, like a sign that you have too many feelings invested in this direction more than it is needed to be.
hmm hmm I started to write an article back in the day about specifically the virtue of temperance and kind of how it was the parent of all other virtue. And that if you do not keep a mind, like literally act with temperance on a regular basis, moving into the place of a vice is very easy. Hey Rachel Brady, how you doing? Thanks for popping in. Hopefully you're enjoying our discussion about temperance and shadow work. Um, but yeah, I said that like temperance is the parent of all the other virtues and probably the one that brings the most grace when you manage to function from that place. Um, I also like the idea of temperance and relating it back to the history in the United States with like the whole modern temperance movement and the idea that like alcoholism was problematic, but maybe not even just alcoholism, but the whole culture that goes along with like drinking booze.
Mm-hmm.
And if like you ever struggle or wonder to recall what temperance means in a reading, just think back to that movement. Like you got to put a cap on the things that are harmful when you engage in them. And for some people, like engaging in alcohol always has a harmful effect.
Now, speaking of prohibition, one of the mottos of the Corellian family is in all things excess.
Uh huh. So there's a mystery there. And I think that resolving that mystery is one of the things that you do on your way to the arch priesthood.
Okay.
How do you do too much and not enough at the same time so that you don't get like your whole like chakra system blown out by the energy that comes with grace? With that being said, I think it might be a decent time to maybe check in with a sponsor. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right, all right. And we back. That was our first sponsor, Equinox. So thank you kindly to them for being our sponsors. Lady Kai showed up in the chat. So thank you. Hey, Lady Kai, welcome, welcome. Speaking of on your way to the arch priesthood, um, let's see where we're. Oh, we were talking about temperance. Um,
Mhm.
boom. So that yeah, that's an important one. That's an important one. When it comes to shadow work, oh, yeah, what'd you get? Go ahead.
Wait, I'm gonna pull till I get a major. Oh, ha, that's funny that this would come after temperance.
Justice.
Justice.
Yeah. I like that justice in particular, like in your representation, because it is actually no, like I like the representations where justice is not blindfolded. So like in yours, like in the Rider Waite Smith, I like the sword and the scales with like the balance and like the sword is like the way to enforce that justice. Like I don't know, like today maybe we would draw with an AR-15.
Hmm.
Um,
I like that she's sitting in front of the Temple of Initiation
mhm.
with the purple veil and everything behind her,
Mhm,
guarding the gate.
mhm, mhm. When it comes to shadow work, what does the justice card prompt you to ask yourself about your own life and your own behavior?
Hmm. Yeah.
No, I'm asking you.
Oh, um, I thought you were just saying that that's what the card was telling us. Um, I would say the Justice card would specifically look at the morality of your behavior. Um, you know, if you did have to do something terrible, what balanced that? If you used that sword, what was your reason?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like that you use the phrase morality because like that is there's more accountability for morality, I think, like on a soul level. Like I think that there's more accountability between ourselves, our higher selves, our ancestors. Like I think that there's more accountability in that place of morality than there would be in that place of ethics. To bring up a conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago about the difference between the two. I think that justice is definitely about morally. Even though we have justice as a way of mediating the our ethical system, I think spiritually it's a moral thing when the card comes up in the tarot.
Hmm.
I think that the justice card really reminds us to tell the truth, because like it's an injustice to lie. I think that the justice card reminds us to not steal from anyone. And I think that on a moral level, the justice card also reminds us that certain inactions are just as inexcusable as certain actions. That's the other side of the scale. Like it addresses that complacency.
I like how she has an equal sign on her chest.
Mm-hmm. Love it. And I like the play between the red layer on the top and the white layer underneath.
I
So
like
it's like
that.
purity cloaked in power.
So, in that vein, she is a young woman dressed in an old lady's outfit. Like, look at that. That's something that a grandma would wear. The white tennis orthopedic shoes and the turtleneck and big sweater. Those are grandma's clothes. And it's like the idea that, like, eternal justice is old, always going to be there,
Mhm, mhm.
young enough to find you, old enough to judge you.
Dang, that's two. Young enough to find you, old enough to judge you. Yowza. Let's see. The next card. How about the world?
Oh.
A lot of things show up at the right time in the right place. You know what I'm saying? When the world is like a card in the reading, like it really is right place, right time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the four quarters of the universe are showing up in manifestation of your will. The tools for manifestation are in both of the hands, meaning that you are able to have or grasp or manifest with either your left hand or your right hand. The nudity that is inherent in here also means that there's little to be ashamed of, if anything at all. And then the whole thing is bound by this wreath or this circle of completion. The red, of course, does make the infinity symbol, knotting the parts of the wreath together. But like either way, this is highly cooperative. Um, and so during a shadow moment, the card really does require you to ask what parts of my team are not working together to produce the final outcome.
So if I were to pull that card, if I were doing a reading for someone or myself about shadow work, about like the analysis of, you know, what kind of shadow work we're doing, why we're doing it, a divination leading up to that sort of work. If I were to pull that card, I think I would think about wh- what is your current world? Like what are the influences? and the pillars on which you're balancing, and how is that affecting the issue, and how much of that world do you want to see persevere
Hmm.
on the other side of the shadow work,
I also am
or a
thinking.
realignment of priorities? It could be too. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No. We good. We good. I'm also thinking about fears that might be present at the result of having everything that you wanted or wished for. Like perhaps the pressure of maintaining the perfect world is a shadow moment.
That's a good point too. It could have a lot of different angles on it
Mm-hmm.
depending on the context.
Mm-hmm.
I think that particular card would probably need a lot of context, or other cards with it to show the context.
I agree. I agree. In your opinion, how often might we engage in personal shadow work?
I don't think there's a limit.
Mm-mm. But like, if it was a medicine, how often would we take it? In
Oh,
your opinion?
so I would say at least for maintenance purposes, once every month or two, at least. And if you have an issue going on in your life, if there are things going on that are, an issue, that might be something that you want to do even more frequently.
Mhm. My recommendation is engage in shadow work for all cycles that you are engaging in that you don't like. So if you got friendship cycles that are not working out for you, shadow work. If you have romantic relationships where you keep moving into the same direction with different partners, shadow work. If you have strained relationships with family members, shadow work. Engage, like do it. Um, and like those would be like the bigger, like most obvious ones because like they cause um, distress that is like noticeable. But then there are like other parts of our survival that we got to attend to. So, for example, if you have a poor relationship with food or dieting, engage shadow work. If you have a poor relationship with nature, shadow work. If you're finding um, if you're finding that your path is blocked from like any kind of joy, really, that's a great time to engage in shadow work. Um,
Mhm.
in my education at Goddard, where I got my master's degree from, I was exposed to a practice called theological reflection. And this was in pastoral counseling and clinical like class. And theological reflection is when you take a look at every moment that gave you pause or gave you a type of dissent. In each of those moments, we have to look for what God was trying to illuminate to us. Because from God's perspective, nothing is wrong in these moments, you know? And if it gives us pause, we have to figure out like why we have the pause. Next level, what is wrong? And if you are able to identify it, that means God has chosen you to do something about it. That's why you paused, because you saw something, experienced something, witnessed something that was not appropriate, that was not acceptable for our timeline, for our reality, for our personal boundaries. We witnessed it, didn't say anything about it. Happens again, now we got pause. So I think shadow work is absolutely like essential in all of those aspects. And I think like really doing it gets us back pieces of our soul that we lost in moments where we felt maybe a little bit powerlessness. I don't know what you think.
I think that's accurate. Yeah,
All right. Now,
I
with
like
that
that.
being said, let's go ahead and see what is up with our last sponsor for the day.
Ready to unlock the secrets of the universe? Join me, Reverend Don Lewis, for my metaphysical and magic auctions at Gaia Thrift at whatnot.com. Discover fascinating artifacts, mystical crystals, and rare and unusual books that could change your life. Don't miss this chance to bring a little magic into your world. Rev Don's Metaphysical and Magic Auctions, where the extraordinary can become yours.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And I'm super glad that that like went off without a hitch, so to speak.
The advertising?
Yeah. Post show. Did it work? Okay, I think that worked. Let's see. Aside from, I did say last time too, like it doesn't just have to be tarot. You can use the runes, you can use the I Ching, you can use palmistry, you can use numerology. All of these things you can use to help reconcile your spirit in the practice of shadow work. I do also want to point out that shadow work is a psychological kind of practice, and that like it was co-opted by, so I say co-opted because like I am kind of making the assumption that like witches and like the clergy, like the entire class of um priests, priestesses, and what have you throughout like time, like they had their practice of shadow work. And like modern psychology was like, oh, like this self-reflection, like it's probably one of the things that people have to do in order to get along with each other in society, serve a purpose, what have you, what have you. So then somehow it found its way into like Jungian and Freudian psychology and psychoanalysis. Like I absolutely do think that like it came from the priestly class first, and it's like psychology got a hold of it. But it is classified as a type of psychological intervention. And it's one of those that you don't actually have to be a psychologist to engage in. You know what I'm saying? You could do shadow work with these major arcana cards with your friends in a circle. And when the tower comes up, you're like, ooh, how, like what have you been avoiding so much that like God literally has to come down and be like, bitch, this is what we doing. Right? Like it's something that you can do, with yourselves, and then you can just like take a look at what the results are. Like once you get this insight from shadow work, you maybe create a reintegration ritual for yourself to call that energy back into yourself, or to maybe integrate that energy into your daylight self, or like that identity that you do share with other people, and now you have another tool for your success.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
There was a song that I heard. It said, "Where there's fear, there is power." And that applies directly to the practice of shadow work.
Absolutely. Oh, that's actually a really good line. There's fear, there's power.
We are coming up at the end of our program for today. Thank you to the various people who showed up. Thank you to Lady Kai for holding it down in the chat and keeping the conversation alive there. Thanks to Rachel and Alyssa and Janet for showing up in the chat as well. And to all of our viewers who were not able to make it into the chat, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Reverend Alyssa for joining me again and holding it down. Just my other half in this here tradition. If you have not registered yet for Lustration, register for Lustration.
Yeah.
If you have not yet checked out the auction that's happening, we do have a Give Butter link that Lady Alyssa and I will probably have on our socials for various days leading up to the close of the auction. So definitely check some stuff out. We got some stones, we got some Oracle decks, we got some tools.
There's a lot of Oracle decks on there that are going for like $1 and $2 bids right now. So go bid on them, get an Oracle deck for not a lot of money, and help your tradition. Yay!
Yay! And I just realized that we don't usually close these with a prayer, but we could if we wanted to.
We can.
And so I give my thanks to my almighty goddess who renews in nature and in all forms of reality. I give thanks for your presence in my life and at all times. And I ask that you continue to move through me and through us so that we become better vessels for your divinity and better advocates for your grace on earth and in the physical plane.
Absolutely.
Cleanse us and bless us and renew us and remove from us all obstacles that hinder us so that we may be free to celebrate you in our own hearts, in our own ways, and in our own lives. So mote it be.
So mote it be.
See y'all next week.